Hello, and welcome to my channel. This is the first lever escapement I've been able to make. I went through a few previous attempts, and after working out all the kinks, I finally have a working prototype. But that's not the end of this little project. I'm going to build a working tourbillon model, and I'm going to upload the entire process here. Let me tell you, the first time it actually ticks was very exciting. Sure, it's not 100% in beat, but it's a prototype, so who cares? Watch and listen to the amplitude change as I deliver more and less power to it. What you're looking at here is the escapement model. And the model isn't 100% done yet, but you'll get the basic idea. There's a simple spring barrel, a drivetrain, and that's going to rotate the entire escapement mechanism. And as you can see, this escapement mechanism also has a fixed internal spur gear. And so this rotating central component against that fixed spur gear is going to be what's going to power the escapement. And here I'm highlighting a series of posts. These are simple structural elements that basically hold the model together. And I'm highlighting them because this is what we're going to be making in today's video. So I'm going to show you the process from start to finish of how to cut these pieces, how to make sure they're dimensionally accurate, so the length is going to be very tightly controlled, as will the diameter, and also all the posts, well, a number of the posts are tapped as well. And so I'll be showing you the entire process of how to make this. We're going to start making the posts with a 1/4-inch brass round bar. And as you can see, I've set the calipers to the approximate length that the pieces need to be in. 6 of the pieces need to be approximately one length, and the remaining 4 pieces need to be a little bit longer. So what I'm doing now is I'm simply using a Sharpie to mark down the locations, being careful to leave about 0.2 inches of extra leeway room. That way when I cut a piece, it'll be slightly longer than needed, and then I can always take that down to the lathe precisely later. And there's a couple ways to do this. Some people might not use a horizontal bandsaw at all. Some people might use a cutoff tool in the lathe, but I won't be doing that because my cutoff bit is broken at the moment. So we'll be using the bandsaw, and that will work just fine for our purposes. As you can see, I readjust the caliper for these last 4 pieces because they are going to be longer than the first 6 pieces. Alright, we're ready to go. Here I'm using a vertical bandsaw to cut the rod into several different pieces. And this is just the cheapo horizontal bandsaw that you might find at Harbor Freight. It has a super shaky base and it's not very well built. And the motor jams frequently, even for tiny pieces of metal. Like even for a 1/4-inch brass rod, sometimes the motor will jam. But it's okay for the money. And what we're doing here is we're just being very careful to line up the saw on the Sharpie ticks and to cut it. And as you can see here, I am holding the piece of metal so it doesn't drop to the floor after the bandsaw is finished cutting. But man, there are safer ways to do this. So if you're using a horizontal bandsaw for the first time, or you're trying to do this at home, just be aware that what a lot of people do is they'll just let the pieces fall to the floor, or they'll put like a little bucket there or something. But just be aware there are safer ways to do this. 10 pieces of brass, perfectly cut. Alright, we're ready to go to the lathe. The bandsaw leaves a cut looking like this. Pretty rough, not great. So we pop it in the lathe, and using a facing tool, we can get a nice face. And here's the result, a perfect shiny face. After facing off each side of the piece, it is measured with calipers. This is so we know exactly how much to shorten it by. We put it in the lathe again and touch the tool to the workpiece. Then we zero out our digital readout. We make several passes, leaving the final pass to be a fairly light cut. You can hear it is uneven cutting because I'm not exactly used to feeding it with my left hand while holding a camera. For faces, since they're not going to be visible, I don't use the power feed. Now that we have all the pieces cut, let's verify that they're all the correct length. We're going for precision most of all, but definitely want accuracy to be within 5 thousandths. Here, each post is within 1,000th of the other posts for the same group, which is great. Next, it's time to take the post down to diameter. 5 of the posts have the outside diameter of 0.2 inches, one post has a diameter of 0.149 inches, and that's a critical dimension, while the other 4 posts can remain at 1/4 of an inch. Note that we're using a different tool in the lathe to take down the diameter. Here, I'm just touching the tool to the outside diameter, which I know is 0.25 inches. Unfortunately, with this DRO, you always have to enter it in radius. I use the power feed to take down the radius, since that part will be visible in the end. Here, I'm doing the other side. Note how I'm doing several passes, not cutting too much in any single pass. When you're doing this operation from each side, you might notice that there's a little line in the middle where your cuts from each side meet. If that happens and you really don't want it there in the final product, you can always take the diameter down first before cutting the length exactly to dimension. But doing this approach, you need to use a little bit more metal, cut it a little longer to begin with, and I decided not to do that for this project. All of the posts need to be drilled, and some need to be tapped. I use a center drill seam here before doing any actual drilling. Now we'll do the drilling. Some holes need to be tapped. I'm using an M 1.7 size tap for this size project. And this is how I tap on my lathe, spinning the headstock with one hand while feeding the tailstock with my other. Now we have all the posts finished. I hope you enjoyed this video. Big projects can have small beginnings, and this project is only going to get more complex from here on out, so stay tuned.